From Colorado's news leader, this is 9 News at 4.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lynette Romero in today for Kim Christensen.
And I'm Ed Green. The world says goodbye to Red Skelton, one of TV's most popular performers for 20 years. Skelton died today at a hospital in Rancho Mirage, California, of an undisclosed illness. His range of characters was amazing, including Clem Kadiddlehopper, Freddie the Freeloader, and the Mean Widow Kid. He once said he didn't want to be known as the greatest comic ever, just a clown who could sing, dance, and make people laugh. His fans will always remember the trademark way Skelton signed off his show in the 50s and 60s. Good night, and God bless. Red Skelton was 84. On to other news now. Police are trying to calm parents' fears after recent reports of at least 3 attempted child abductions in the past week in the Denver area. Turns out they weren't abduction attempts after all.
9 News reporter Ginger Delgado is at Samuels Elementary School in southeast Denver. Ginger, when did they find all this out?
Just this morning, Lynette, after a lot of investigating. There were 2 attempted kidnappings here at Samuels Elementary, one yesterday and one last week, and there was 1 report of an attempted kidnapping at Prairie Middle School in Aurora yesterday. Turns out all 3 of them were false reports. Now, yesterday, a boy told police a man in a black Mercedes tried to lure him into his car. Turns out the man is a parent of a child who goes to school here, and he was simply asking the boy a question. In the second incident, last Thursday, a girl said she was approached by an older man with white hair and an accent. Turns out he was a delivery man originally from Russia who came to the school to deliver a computer. He says he was just trying to help the little girl who was crying. And finally, a young girl at Prairie Middle School told police a man tried to kidnap her yesterday, but police confirmed the man was out of state at the time. Despite all this, police still want kids to know they will take every report very seriously.
It's very important that kids know that if they believe that something bad has happened, or if something happened that made them feel perhaps scared or very uncomfortable, that it's okay to tell us. And it's very important to tell either a police officer or a parent or a teacher or a member of school staff or someone you really trust that we will take action and do the best we can to find out exactly what happened.
And both the Aurora and Denver Public School Districts notified parents and staff as to what was going on. Both of the districts sent notices home, talked to kids about not going anywhere with strangers, and just to be aware of what's going on in the area. Lynette?
Okay, thanks a lot, Ginger.
Okay.
An unusual and disturbing child abuse case in Fort Myers, Florida. A father is accused of punishing his 14-year-old daughter for socializing with African-American and Haitian people. This was her punishment. A 20-pound, 15-foot long chain was wrapped around the girl's neck and padlocked. After being punished by her father, the girl ran to a neighbor's house for help.
I was out back, standing out back there, and she, by the thing there, she came over to me. She said, "Can you help me?" She was carrying that big chain. She says, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Well, I can't help you, but I'll call the police."
The girl's father was arrested and held without bail. He told police he wanted to embarrass his daughter and teach her a lesson. The 14-year-old girl is being taken care of by the Florida Family Services Association.
Now from our follow-up file, reopening one of the most famous murder cases in American history, the case that inspired TV's The Fugitive. Today, the body of Dr. Sam Shepard was exhumed and sent for DNA testing in an effort by his son to prove his father's innocence. A backhoe dug up the Columbus, Ohio gravesite where Shepard's remains have been buried for 27 years. Sam Rees Shepard was 7 when his father was accused of killing his mother. Until his death, Shepard claimed an intruder was the real killer. Today, Shepard's son laid daisies on the coffin and later spoke bitterly, saying this was the first time he'd been allowed to properly grieve.
And I feel a great sorrow now. A great sorrow that was not allowed to me as a young child by the media. I was unable to attend my mother's funeral, and I could not go to my dad's funeral as a young adult because I would have taken one of these and put them down somebody's throat.
DNA samples were later taken from Shepard's body for testing. His son hopes the results will clear his father once and for all.
5 Americans are among the dead in the crash of a United Nations helicopter today. It happened in Bosnia. The chopper slammed into a mountain in heavy fog. 12 people died in all. The chopper was taking diplomats to negotiations when it crashed. Among the victims, a senior international mediator. The only survivors appear to be the helicopter's 4-man crew.
Elsewhere, all 4 branches of the U.S. military have ordered a 24-hour stop to training flights. 9 News reporter Sylvia Thomas tells us the order comes after 5 air crashes in just 4 days.
It's become an all-too-familiar sight for the military, rescuing its personnel. 2 pilots were pulled from the choppy waters off the New Jersey coast Tuesday night after their F-16 fighter jets collided in midair. 1 jet crashed into the water. The pilots ejected safely. The pilot of the second F-16 managed to fly his damaged plane back to an airport. For the military, it was time for review.
What we will do in that stand-down period is simply take a look at the training, the quality of the aircraft, the maintenance, and to emphasize safety is our most important objective.
The Secretary insists it's not unusual to have a series of accidents. When an Air Force stealth fighter crashed at an air show near Baltimore over the weekend, the problem appeared to be structural. The wing of the fighter came apart in midair. The pilot ejected safely. But investigators still don't know what happened in Africa. There, an Air Force cargo plane went down. In Oman, a Navy F-18 fighter crashed. And in North Carolina, a Marine jet on a training run crashes. Those crashes are still being investigated. Despite the disastrous week for the military, the president, too, says there's no reason to jump to conclusions.
Every year we lose a couple of hundred people serving the United States in the military in peacetime. It is dangerous work. They have to be well trained, they have to be skilled, they have to be brave.
The Defense Secretary has left it up to each individual branch of the military to pick a day over the next week to impose the 24-hour safety stand-down. This will not apply to any operational activities, only training missions. In Washington, Sylvia Thomas, NBC News.
More news in a moment, but first here to look at what's coming up a little later right here on 9 News at 4. Trapped on a Ferris wheel. We'll have the story of 2 girls left dangling 60 feet in the air. And later, in Health Matters, a breakthrough treatment for couples experiencing infertility. That's all coming up later on 9 News at 4. Well, French police are checking new angles in the crash that killed Princess Diana, Dodi Al-Fayed, and their driver.
But they want to speak to the sole survivor, Trevor Rees-Jones. And reporter Jim Bitterman tells us that could happen soon.
In a statement released by the British Embassy, Jill and Ernie Jones say their son Trevor is getting better all the time and is now managing to sit up out of bed for several hours each day. Rees-Jones, who is under 24-hour police guard at the same hospital where Princess Diana died, is expected to be questioned by investigators later this week, possibly Friday. As the only survivor of the accident, he may quickly be able to confirm or discount a second bit of news to come out of the investigation: that another car may have been struck by the Mercedes carrying Princess Diana seconds before the fatal crash. At the top crime laboratory in France outside Paris, scientists are examining